Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's Fateless podcast episode. Joining me from the Fateless team is going to be Simon, Marcelo, and Alejandro. And we're going to be talking about some things around combat and keeping you in the loop as far as that is concerned. But we've got two newcomers on the channel here in Marcelo and Alejandro. So I want to let you introduce yourself to everybody and talk about what you do. And we'll go ahead and start with you, Marcelo.
Hey everyone, Marcelo. I'm a senior developer here at Fateless. I've been in the game industry for about a decade. I work on pretty much everything. Started with smaller PC games, went indie. At that point, met with my wife, and that's why I ended up in Canada, where I'm now. I joined a VR AR company. After that, I went back into gaming, work on mobile games, then work on larger titles, and finally, I joined Fateless around September. And I've been working on combat and mostly on combat tools and stuff like that.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then go ahead, Alejandro.
Hey, everyone. My background is not as big as Marcelo. I'm more an intern, which I'm like currently helping with Faceless with whatever I can. I'm from Spain. I've been doing my studies there, and then I moved to Belgium to keep specializing more with game development. Where like that's where I'm right now, and I'm in my last year of studies, and now I'm doing my internship with Fateless, where I try to help with anything that I can, like with combat of characters and anything that I could be helping with.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Yeah.
And then Simon, go ahead and kick us off on the direction we're kind of going here today.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be really interesting to sort of deep dive some of the different abilities that we're implemented in game right now, and talk about how you guys sort of come in and I guess your different roles within that. But before we do that, before we get into sort of the more the technical stuff, I'd love to know, like, Alejandro is starting as an internship. We're a remote studio, which means for anyone who doesn't know, we don't have like an office where everyone comes in. So really curious to understand, someone coming in as a new employee really at all in a sort of gaming space. Like, how have you found coming in as an intern where there isn't this kind of like office that you just literally walk to someone's desk to ask questions? Like, how's that been for you?
Well, I have to say that at the beginning it was a little bit hard, especially the first weeks, because yeah, it's entering like a new company, like a lot of new people, and you don't actually see them. It's not like you go to the office and you enter a door and you start seeing the people. You sit next to each other. So like we only have the stand-ups. Of course, you join Discord and calls. And then for me, it was like a little bit like, yeah, like feeling a little bit like not misplaced, like not like being here working, but I'm not working with in the company. But after a couple of weeks, I get adapted to how this works and always stand-ups. And every time that you need help, I just like help with a call with Marcelo. Like every time, especially the first week, I remember like we call a lot because some issues that I was finding and like helping with the combat or things that I saw that could be not working as they should, and then I go ask Marcelo. So, but and right now I actually feel very comfortable working online. Like it's also I really like the flexibility that Fateless provides. Like I can start if one day I need to start later because I want to have a doctor appointment. I can easily do that, or if I want to finish later or early, and then next day I just like do extra hours. Like I really like
Yeah.
that flexibility that Fateless provides.
Yeah, and Marcelo, have you worked in a company that's remote before? Is that, or is this like a new experience for you? And I know you've obviously been in a lot more roles.
Yeah. So since moving to Canada, I was always working in remote roles. So
Okay.
I'm used to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
because I know it's a bit of a, I guess it's slightly different from what generally people do in this industry or try to do. So yeah, I was just curious really, like how it impacts your day to day, and certainly when we've got quite a wide team now. We've got over 30 people in the squad.
yeah. I think the key is like being able to reach out to people, because like since you're not in the office, you have to like write them or call them, and as long as there's that communication going, I think it works just as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we really want to touch on combat here. So for us, we're trying to bring some really interesting game mechanics. A lot of the sort of, I guess the people that are setting the direction for what we're trying to do with this game are people that have played a lot of MMOs and big sort of turn-based RPGs, and we're really trying to bring some like the fun elements to that. So I guess Brad, it probably kicks off with you and some of the other guys in the design team around what we would really love to do with heroes, and I guess firstly, I guess a good one would be like, what have we not been able to implement because it's too challenging, or what have you been surprised that we've been able to get implemented in a really effective way?
Yeah, I think one of the calling cards of our combat is going to be the ultimate system and kind of like the initiative and the speed. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to see kind of like the two different ways to go about building ultra fast or getting ultimates more often and kind of balancing that power of how to make it work. And I think that's gonna be one of the bigger challenges for us balance wise is to get those two
Yeah,
meters kind of equally powerful and make both play styles viable. So that's something from a design perspective in terms of heroes and balancing how fast ultimates are getting online and balancing speed and how important turns are. That's going to be kind of something I'm really focused on when we dive into the balancing phase for sure.
yeah, cool. And I guess to you guys then on the dev side, like try and explain to people if you're implementing an effect for heroes, I just try and break it down. Like, how long does it take? Is there things that people wouldn't appreciate in terms of this interaction between the different, I guess, pieces on the board?
Well, for me, as an intern, like implementing like specific status effect takes me like mostly like half day or 1 day, depend of like if it takes like if I have some problems, but also because I'm new to the project and then I need to understand like how everything works, how everything is connected. Like so the flow is a little bit slow, but the more I'm doing effects, the faster it goes. But I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure like for Marcelo, like this is like a way faster thing to do.
Well, so there's a big range of effects, right? Like there's things that is easily like changing a status, and then there's things like confuse or some effect that requires different visuals because the enemy is gonna attack someone else or it's gonna do something that's
Let's
normally
slow down there because it's really important, right? So
Yeah.
you've almost got this bucket of, like you say, stat change. So it's literally like, okay, with increased defense, everyone just gets a bigger number, which I'd imagine is quite easy to do from in your world. But then you've got almost like the next range probably, which might be, I don't know, we apply heal over time or a dot or something like that, where it's kind of like you're not just changing a stat, you're actually applying something to a hero or an enemy or whatever. And it goes all the way up to we're going to completely change the way the game behaves, which, like you say,
Exactly.
confuse is an example of that. So, yeah, perhaps talk us through confuse because that's probably been one of the toughest ones so far.
Yeah, and maybe just to mention, so like the way we're building, like we have systems, of course, and we try to have things that are generic we can expand on, and we work with design to so like we can have the conditions, features depending on the effects and what they need to do. But yeah, for example, the confuse was a big one that you had to do because now you have something that wouldn't happen before, like you have your team attacking your own team, which wasn't in the normal flow.
Yeah.
So that requires, okay, so now we have to think about visuals. How does that look visually? Because if your hero is the one at the left and there's two in between and one attacked one that's at the most right. So there's all these challenges that come up when have some types of effects that don't happen if it's just a stat change or even a burn or a dot. Like there's VFX that may apply, but it's a totally different beast. So it's really a collaboration between dev and design because some of the things is like, okay, we can make it work, but how much effort do you want to put into like, do you want to move the whole thing? Do you want to like have a bunch of fancy camera changes or do we just want to like simplify it?
Well,
So
that's what I was
all
going to
this
say as well,
collaboration
because we've got these different camera points as well. So it could be like you just say, you know what, if I'm putting confuse on an enemy and suddenly they're going to hit one of their other teammates, you could just cheat the camera, right? To cheat the camera and suddenly they just appear in front of that other enemy, they hit them, and you don't really know. But that doesn't work if we've got this kind of like more zoomed out view, because actually they need to move. They need to move within that view. So there's a lot more kind of like complexity to it than perhaps people realize. I mean, I guess, yeah. Where do you go about sort of making those decisions? Is it like a bit of a trial and error, or mock-ups, or
Uh,
how's that work?
yeah, it's definitely it's collaboration with the tech designers and designers. We reach out to them and say, hey, here's what's possible. Like, here's how we could look. Like, and they tell us as well. Like, okay, like let's make it look like this way. And we go through. Sometimes we do iterations and see, okay, well, that doesn't look as good as we wanted. Let's try something else. But it's a lot of back and forth between design and dev
This is
until
like a
something
thing.
feels good.
This is a
Yeah.
thing that is like constantly changing. Like, for example, we recently made the charm effect, and like we're recently changing. So it's like something that is right now implemented in a way. Probably, maybe like in a couple of weeks, it's gonna be changed, and we need to like change his implementation. So it's something that is like constantly changing.
Yeah, and have you got a gauge like how many status effects, or are these kind of like individual little sort of code pieces do you actually need in a game that's this big?
Well, well, in this game with there's so many characters that we have, I think like plenty.
Yeah, yeah,
Plenty.
It's 150 plus right now.
yeah. Well, this is what people don't appreciate. So we've got passive abilities. We've got weapons that are going to have passives on them. We've got obviously buffs, debuffs. You then got types of attack, like ally attack is almost like its own status effect that you need to try and work out how that's going to work. You got things like confuse, like it's vast, right? It's actually vast, the amount that you'll need, and that will forever grow, I guess, in terms of us bringing more interesting stuff into the game. But yeah, I mean, I think naively when we first set out to build this, someone said to me, "Oh, there's going to be someone pretty much working on status effects for weeks or whatever," and I'd be like, "That seems crazy. Like, surely that's just a couple of days worth of work." But yeah, it seems never ending. It seems never ending, guys.
Yeah.
No,
And that number includes generic effects, because we have lots of things that are generic. Like, if you're changing a stats, we can have one effect that you can set if the stat you want to change it. So like,
Yeah,
otherwise you would be like exponentially more. Yeah.
yeah. I guess, Marcelo, for you, have you worked on a project that's, I guess, yeah. What other projects you worked on? Have you worked on projects of this sort of size and kind of like scope in terms of all these different sort of elements?
Now, when it comes to the amount of characters and the abilities, like I work on the projects, we had all these things. We had status effects, we have characters, but it was a lot more contained. Like, it was even though the project was big, like there was only a limited number of characters and abilities. So this is definitely the most like status effects abilities project I worked on for sure.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how many characters are we planning to have like at the end when the game is finished?
Well, yeah,
Say that?
yeah. I mean, over 200. So over 200 on launch, and and we just basically keep adding more. But obviously, then bosses as well, and the bosses have got some really interesting type of gameplay mechanics, I guess. So, just talking through with the design guys, we're looking to have phased gameplay where potentially bosses change either the way they react to things, or their abilities slightly scale as they go into a new phase. Again, like trying to have a bit of a callback to some of the MMO style games where you could almost enrage a boss, or you get the boss to a certain amount of HP and then suddenly you've got something else to deal with. But just trying to make it more interesting, I think, than some of the games that are already out there in the genre. But yeah, I guess what would be your sort of favorite games to play, Alejandro?
My
in the
favorite
day-to-day.
right now, I think like the latest one that I've played and I really enjoyed was like Baldur's Gate 3, because I also
Oh,
really
yeah.
like this type of game, like a turn-based game, also a role play like D&D style, like I really like. And I also really like games like GODFORGE, like this type where you like you have like a lot of characters and you have to find out, okay, which one is the most OP right now, which one's works better with this other character, or I have to like use these two characters to in order to get this buff or like this energy. So I really like those kind of games that actually give me flexibility to like create my team and like and to keep upgrading and getting better with this. So this kind of games I also like really enjoy. But latest one that I've played, Baldur's Gate 3, I think that's the one I've enjoyed the most.
Yeah. What about you, Marcelo?
My favorite of all time is Witcher 3, but the last game I've been playing is Kingdom Come Deliverance, the first one, because I want to play the second one, but I never played the first, so I figure I'd give it a shot. I'm enjoying it so far, but yeah, I'm big into RPGs though. That's my thing.
Yeah, it does feel like the team generally, not just in the games they make, but also the games they play, they've all got a real sort of passion for this type of genre, this type of RPG.
Yeah.
Brad, what are you playing right now? Have you got any sort of new games on the horizon?
Yeah, I'm always playing a ton. Right now I've actually been playing V Rising because they launched their like expansion pack type patch. So I've been on a big like survival game RPG kick for a little bit, but I also try all of the new mobile games as you know, Simon. We're always excited for the next release of a hero collector and trying them out and seeing what's going on. So yeah, but there's always StarCraft, Age of Empires 4, and stuff that I'm kicking around. I played through Grounded recently, which is a survival game. So
Okay.
pretty crazy getting after a bunch of them always.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple coming out. I really like the look of a game called Etheria Restart, which we've been so it's coming out soon. It's in this genre, and it's more anime style, but the combat is what's really interesting to me. And again, they do some of that sort of camera trickery to. And this is the fun thing when you're actually in game development. You start to look at games in a different way. So, I wonder how they're doing that. I wonder how they're kind of like either cheating the system or their interpretation of a system, their way that they're showing things on like a UI, all these type of elements. Suddenly you start to see it differently, and they had a really interesting way of trying to like, I guess, slightly cheat the camera system for a game like this, so that it always feels like your hero, your character's right in the front of combat, and yeah, actually, us and some of the other dev team have been like, is there some stuff that we could take from this? But I guess is that what you tend to do as in your dev roles? Are you kind of constantly looking for, how has something been made, or or asking other people like, how would you overcome this challenge to be able to sort of implement things into GODFORGE?
Yeah, if some game did something that we want to use, I definitely look at it as a reference, because you always run into small problems that you never thought about, like things that totally will pass your mind when you're implementing, like, oh wow, and then you go like, oh, they did it, how did they solve this problem? So you go look, and just by testing it, you get an idea most of the time of how they handle that scenario.
Yeah, like I think like we're like as a programmer also is kind of similar like in some ways like artists like you also have to look for some reference like it hasn't happened yet in GoldForge, but for other projects I have done like a school like I have to implement movement like swimming movement, so then I just go look like how other games implement the movement, how does it look, so I try to replicate this. So it's also based on looking for reference and seeing how other games or companies do it, and maybe try to improve it. Like maybe try to do something different. Try to like yeah, to do it different.
Yeah, for sure. It's really interesting. Like I know that when we so at Fateless we actually went to Hellhades, which was your university, Alejandro, and we actually and so I wasn't really didn't really appreciate how big it was, but we did like an internship interview session, 2 days, myself and two others from the team, both in terms of art, in terms of dev, pretty much any role that you could imagine in gaming, we interviewed for. And I think Howard's do it in a really great way that basically all of the students there, on your courses are encouraged to go and get a 4-month internship. It's a proper like interview process. You're shown like a full portfolio. I guess, yeah. I mean, talk through that experience, Alejandro. How many different companies did you talk to, and what made you interested in what we're doing at Fateless?
Yeah, like I remember like this was the on-rap festival that the school organized, which basically is like 2 or 3 days of a career fair where basically like companies like Fateless come and meet a lot of students to see if they're interested in like doing internships. And I remember there was like a website that we use where you basically like prepare a meeting, with where you're interested. And I think like those 2 days, I think I did like a 20 like interviews or something like
Yeah,
that. like a lot. There's like a data you do a lot of interviews, which is actually also nice because it also gives you a lot of experience to prepare like interviews. Because for me, for example, it was the first time doing a interview related with a gaming company. So like the first one is always the worst one, but then at the end of the day, like you get like the things that, oh, this one I should just say it better, or I've done better. So and I remember like talking with you for GODFORGE, and you explained me how the company was working, that it was online, and how you all organized, that you were from all around the world. And I remember asking you like, how do you guys organize? Because like everyone is from different parts of the world. Like Marcelo's from Canada, you're from the UK. So like everyone has like such different times. So like, it was like for me, it was I remember asking you that, and I really like the how do you explain it, like how do you organize, and that's why I'm also interested like in to like actually like be working here and to learn from the team, because I also like saw that there's a lot of people that is working in the industry, which also like uh wanted me to do my interest here to learn for other people that's been working in the company that's like experience, like Marcelo or like Chris, like Igor, like any
Yeah.
other, like there's like very talented people in this team.
You talked with 20. Where was Fateless? Did we get the polished Alejandro or the inexperienced? Were we like the second one or like the 19th?
We were, I think we were the first one.
Oh, Fateless was your first one?
Yeah, I think it was Fateless, and then I had another company also from the UK that I did an interview, but they didn't like because for the other one was actually like in person, and it was like impossible to like a UK. Right now it's like for getting to get a, how do you say, like to actually do intern there is like very hard right now, like to actually move to there like and do
Yeah.
internship and get like it's like right now it's like very hard. So that's why I did the interview, but I knew that was not going to like to work because they don't do online. And then Fatal was perfect because I actually can stay here at my place and I don't have to move.
Yeah. What was your entry into gaming, Marcelo? How did you get into the dev side?
Yeah, so as it was actually in the university, I joined the research group. They were working on a sign language translator. So they're using like Kinect, the Xbox camera, and they used sensor gloves to be able to translate gestures into text. And then we had the text into gestures using a 3D avatar. So I joined that project. Then I joined the research group, and I started making serious games with that. So we will create games that teach sign language and integrating that translator system
Oh,
that they
okay.
had. Yeah, and spent a couple of years there, and that's after that I went to the indie routes with some friends, and because I always wanted to. It's always been a passion to be in games.
Yeah, yeah. And then you
Yeah.
said your last role you were actually in VR.
Yeah, so that's after I moved to Canada. I joined a CTS. I work on VR and AR applications in Unity. I spent a year doing that. Yeah, it was a kind of like simulation, like training apps in a way, like so, like to train staff to do something, but like in a VR environment.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
It's actually it's
and
like it's so different, isn't it? Each of the different roles, like
yeah,
although basically you're doing the same. I guess you're doing the same processes in Unity. It feels like I don't know. It
yeah,
feels like, oh yeah, this guy's a lorry driver, and then suddenly he's going to be a pilot or something. Like they're so different in terms of the type of games that you're making or the type of processes you're making, but still
yeah.
ultimately the same role.
I did do a bit of almost everything like the gaming world for sure. Like yeah. After that, I went to mobile, and then was like almost AAA scale game, different engines. Like the last game was in Unreal, so yeah,
Mm.
it's I've been all over the place.
Yeah. Do you guys have a preference between generally like ease of working and being able to create things between Unreal and Unity?
Oh,
Uh,
the thing
for
is, like, I do both like I like both, but I do agree that Unreal is like more has a headache. They give you like way more problems. At least for like if you work with C++, I remember like when I was working for group projects in my school, like every now and then Unreal was crashing or like giving a lot of errors. And with Unity is like more like chill, calm, like it crashes, but like very weird. And then probably because you're doing something wrong. At least with my experience.
uh, I say I like Unity for like VR and mobile, and then for higher end, like PC and console, I prefer Unreal.
That's kind of the narrative I've heard a lot.
Yeah.
Have you worked on
crashes.
like did you work on like IP games in Unreal, Marcelo? Was like big titles that people might
It
know?
wasn't the release. It was the Arctic 7. It was working on Dawn of Fire.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. That's like a roguelike style.
Yeah, it was it was like a high fidelity roguelike style.
Yeah, cool. Well, I guess it's been really interesting to chat to you guys. I think, in terms of what you guys bring behind the scenes on the day-to-day, a lot of people probably just won't appreciate the effort and the time that goes into these things because they just work by the time you start playing the game. But for me, seeing the game sort of grow over the last, I guess 6 months really, from basically just, hero standing there T-posed, not doing anything to enemies, to actually going in, applying debuffs, applying buffs, and starting to probably be like animated and it feel like a visual game. It's been like incredible, honestly. It's incredible to see like that step change. I know we've still got a long way to go. But I don't know, do you guys feel like in those earlier stages of game development, like I guess, how do you get your sort of personal reward, that sort of feeling of it's coming together? Because it feels like it's been quite slow to me from that end to end. But when I see beginning to end, I'm now like, damn, that's a huge amount of work. And it's, for me personally, it's really rewarding to see now, the sort of game that we're creating. But yeah, how do you kind of keep your mindset in a good spot towards the beginning of projects?
You want me to? Well, for me, it's like it helps a lot. Like when you are implementing something and you actually see it working. Like for example, you implement like a status of availability, and that it's actually like you end up managing to make it work and it works in game. That's like what it gives you like this. Like, oh yeah, this is good. I want to do another one. I want to be able to do more and to be able to like other when Simon or other team member goes play and see, oh, he did this and it is working. Or it's actually really nice when now recently we added those heroes that are like fully completed and that you can play. But we have the build, and I went to play the build, and it like felt really nice to like see all the heroes with like the effects and everything like working together, like in the combat. I was like really nice, and it makes you like, oh, I want to implement more. I want to add more things. I want to implement other characters. That's at least for me what it works.
Yeah, it's always good like to be able to visualize, to actually see the results of your work. That's for sure like one of the most gratifying parts. But yeah, when everything, like when you start building a system that is going to be a big system, it's going to be a while before you see anything. It's the small goals. It's like it's the process, like seeing each piece you build. You usually like you'll test it to some degree, making sure, oh, look, this part is working. Okay, now I can create that. And it's knowing that once it's done, you get to see it, and then it's a really rewarding feeling.
Because a lot of the time though, don't you feel like, or I felt this way anyway, a lot of the time I'm like, people say to me, oh yeah, this is done, and I'm like, oh cool, I'll go and test it out. It's like, no, it's done in the back end, like it will work, the effect works, but you can't see it yet. And I'm like, all right, well, I struggle with that. I'm quite a visual person, right?
There's definitely a big gap to done. Is like, look at the console. We printed a line that says something works. Like, that's our early gratification for like, okay, this feature is working. Now it doesn't look good, but it will someday.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the cool things about the way that we're doing it, with being transparent and doing it alongside the community and everything, is Simon, you're gonna be able to make some really cool videos when we get close to like live launch, of showing like a compilation of the progress, like month 1, month 2, month 3. There's going to be all sorts of clips and kind of that slow montage of leading up to what the game actually looks like from start to launch. That's going to be really cool to see.
Yeah, because actually what's fun is like at every step, when we start to get like gray boxing in and start to get heroes on the screen, all that type of stuff, each point I'm like, damn, this is starting to feel really cool. This is starting to feel really good now. And then, each month goes by and you're like the lighting gets better, shaders get better, the abilities start to come in, starting to get effects coming through, and suddenly it all starts to wrap together. You're like, actually, no, what I thought looked cool 6 months ago now looks trash. And and what we've got now feels really cool,
But
so
I
it
just
kinda
went
keeps
through
evolving.
That's what I just went through with our campaign stages. This newest iteration. I'm not sure if you've shown it yet on the YouTube channel, but
I've
I'm
not
excited
yet,
for
no.
it. I'm excited for our campaign map. But like you said, you see it from like a UI concept, and then just that first kind of trash concept where you're throwing images up there, and then we had the one that we've had for like the last 3 months, and then now this new one, and you're like, holy, like now it's starting to come
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. And then you get Chris from our dev side. He so take the old ones. He creates a tool to just like count how many polygons are on a page. And you realize like one of the old maps had these trees which look absolutely horrendous, but they're like whatever it is, like 1,000,000 polygons or something, like basically eating all of the bandwidth of any device, just from these like little trees that are in there. And just all of this work that just kind of like ends up building to like a really well optimized game, with cool kind of visuals. I guess let's just go forward a bit. So long term, maybe for you, Alejandro, what would be like a dream type of game, or what would you love to see in your future in terms of if you could work on, I don't know, any I guess series of games that already exists. Would there be one that you'd be like, yeah, I'd love to go and be involved in that?
I mean, for me, like since the beginning, like when I started like studying game development, my dream company, my dream job to be working was like always Naughty Dog, because it's like I've played a lot of his games, and that's my dream. Like, oh, one day to be able to work at Naughty Dog and help with the games that I make, because I really like the games that I make. But also will imply to move to America, which I'm not sure if I'm prepared to do that. But yeah,
Right.
that I think that my dream company, that's always like a Naughty Dog.
Yeah. What about you, Marcelo? Is there something or a direction that you'd love to go in the future?
Probably creating something like the Witcher 3 would be like the goal. Like this is my favorite game.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll take the heroes from GODFORGE and make an RPG like the story like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put your heads out, Marcelo. Yeah, I like that.
Do you still enjoy, some of the kind of like the Witcher series that come out when you're sort of really deeply loving the actual sort of original lore and stuff from the games?
Yeah. To me, it's the game is just superior to me. Like I prefer it, but yeah, I still enjoy it. I take it as a different take on it, basically.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should probably wrap up with the ultimate question, Brad. I'll hand over to you to to get it done.
Okay, yes, that was good. So one thing we like to let people express here on the channel when they're new is kind of like their favorite, if they could pick one. Do you guys have a favorite myth or legend or whatever that you're really hoping is an awesome hero to bring to our game design wise? We'll go ahead and start with you, Alejandro. Do you have a certain pantheon or myth or legend that really stands out to you?
I mean, but yeah, okay. It has to be like, because for me it will be really cool, like to have a character like Kratos, like God of War, but like someone like Kratos, like God of War, that will be like a really cool character to have in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you because obviously like we always have our take on our characters that come in. So although they're well known, is there like a particular direction that you would like love to see from it? I
Like
guess even
from the character.
yeah. Is there something you would love, or I don't know, could you see it doing a certain type of ability that you
Okay.
just
I mean, I really like from the last game from God of War, like the axe, like to be able, like, I guess like that will be a cool mechanic to implement, like throwing the axe and doing mechanics with that, like the
yeah,
ultimate stuff like that. I think that will be like a really cool like mechanic to implement.
nice. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. And then Marcelo, did you have one that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, other than Robin Hood, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one's been said already.
Yeah,
indeed.
okay. I think things like monsters would be cool, like a kraken or something along those lines would be cool, like epic monsters.
For
I
a
think
boss
that
or
would
for
be
an
neat.
actual playable like
Well,
hero?
yeah, I guess it would be weird for a player because scale wise, but yeah, I think it would be cool to have them like as bosses at least.
That's also something we've struggled with, by the way, is we want people to be
Yeah.
able to summon like dragons and stuff, but then you get like the wings spreading across the whole map,
Yeah.
and it gets difficult.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Well, did we have anything else, Simon, that you wanted to touch on, or we're good to go? Okay.
No, I think we're good. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, Alejandro, Marcelo, thanks for taking the time to join on the channel here and get on the Fateless YouTube for the first time. And Simon, it was fun to see you again. And as for all of you, thank you for watching. And we will have all the links you need down below to join the Discord server, all that sort of stuff, if you would like to share your input on GODFORGE moving forward. So, yep. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon in the next Fateless podcast episode. Later.
Yes.